Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Dudley, and I'm with the New Center. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Why Sustainability Matters with Bob Nussmeier. We're so glad you could join us. A video recording and PDF of the presentation you're about to see will be uploaded to the new website, newconcrete.org, following today's webinar. Questions can be answered in the Q&A dialog box in the Zoom platform and will be answered once the presentation is finished. And attendees are in listen-only mode. The ideas expressed in the following presentation are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views of the New Center, ACI, or its committees. As with all concrete mixtures, trial batches should be performed to verify concrete properties. The results may vary due to a variety of circumstances, including temperature and mixed components, among other things. You should consult your materials, cement, and concrete professionals for assistance regarding concrete production or placement. Nothing contained herein shall be considered or construed as a warranty or guarantee, either expressed or implied, including any warranty of fitness for a particular purpose. Okay, now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Bob Nussmeier is the Vice President of Strategic Clients at Baker Construction. Bob is based in Houston, Texas, and Denver, Colorado, and supports Baker's strategic clients nationally. He is a true professional in executive-level relationship support with more than 32 years of experience in the industrial construction industry. His specialization includes the construction of LNG terminals, oil and gas facilities, petrochemical plants, nuclear fuel and waste, clean energy power plants, and microchip plants, EPCM execution teams, and embedded carbon emission reductions through concrete technologies. Bob holds a bachelor's degree in construction management from Purdue University and currently serves as a founding and voting member of ACI 376, Concrete Structures for the Containment of Refrigerated Liquefied Gases. In addition, Bob is an executive committee member on the Board of Advisors for the Construction Industry Institute, CII, and previously served as the chair of strategic planning. Baker is the largest concrete and foundations contractor in the U.S., with a strong focus on clean power and energy transition projects. Okay, go ahead, Bob. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That was a good introduction. I didn't come with a disclaimer because everything I'm about ready to tell you is the absolute truth, so I don't need one. But anyway, I want to talk a little bit about Baker and what Baker's all about. We're really honored to be a part of NEW and the overall conscientious drive to lower the carbon emissions and participate aggressively in the overall campaign of global warming. Baker is a fantastic company. I've been with them for now going on about 13 years. During those 13 years, I had a break for a decade to get some training at Kiewit, and I was lucky to be with Kiewit for a decade, and then came back to Baker at a time during COVID when we were really looking at how we can become more aggressive about sustainability and reducing the global warming potential in our construction practices and the materials that we use. But let me tell you a little bit about Baker. Baker's, 1968, they started out in Ohio. Dan Baker, our founder, who's still very active in the company, and his brothers got together and started pouring concrete in a fine town of Oxford, Ohio. And over time, that evolved into some large automotive concrete floors in the Midwest, and got more aggressive in commercial and got more aggressive in industrial construction. And since 1968, Baker Concrete Construction, now known as Baker Construction, has expanded considerably. And we're probably going to be a little over $2 billion in revenue, pouring concrete somewhere in the United States. And most of our people don't know anything but or different than actually being the very best at concrete construction. So from the start, Dan was always an innovator of lots of technologies and programs that would advance either safety or quality or productivity. And that core value in the company has continued to where now we have some 14,000 projects or so that we were fortunate enough to be a part of in one way or another in the concrete construction. And really blessed with 8,000 coworkers now, 8,000 all over the United States that place concrete construction. American Concrete Institute has been a core of who Baker is. Many of you that have known Baker for a while knew that we've had at least two presidents of ACI as Baker employees, one of them being Dan Baker and another being Mike Schneider, and lots of committee work over the years to be able to improve codes, specifications, guides, and other engineering tools. And I've been a part of the American Concrete Institute. And then when New developed and saw that as a real key of being able to support the campaign of lower carbon emissions and zero carbon eventually relative to concrete, we supported New in a big way. And we think it's a dynamic purpose, business plan, and objectives within the core of New. And that's why we're really supporting it as much as we can. Why is sustainability so important to us? Well, it's important to all of us, everybody on this call and everybody in our industry. It's important because we're all concerned about reducing carbon emissions and looking at a greener, cleaner way for buildings to be built, cities to be expanded, industrial plants to be built, so that we have a healthier world for my grandson to grow up in. So that's why we have sustainability. It's the fact that concrete is the most commonly used building material in the world, and it also does a great job in the production of cement to have considerable amount of emissions. And the cement industry, with the help of everybody else at New and ACI and other global companies, are doing a great job reducing carbon emissions substantially, or what we call the embedded or embodied carbon that exists with the production of Portland cement. And everybody's doing a good job seeing those reductions in emissions substantially. And I think part of that is because everybody is getting stronger and stronger with sustainability and what that really means. So I'll go over a little bit about Baker's sustainability commitment, what some of the practices that we're doing within our own construction company, placing and building concrete construction, and then open it up for some of your good questions and hopefully answer that. So with that, next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about Baker going all the way back to 1968. I think I became affiliated with Baker Company in around 1974. So I've seen them a lot of years do growth, and it's just a great company that believes in healthier lives, healthier projects, i.e., let's be on the bandwagon and do everything we can with sustainability and dropping the global warming potentials in our materials that we use on building structures all over the country. So some of the values that mean a lot to Baker is we are a company of strong coworkers. And so our number one value above all is people. With people then comes great engineering, great processes, great tools, and culmination of a lot of technology that allow us to improve safety, quality, and productivity in concrete construction. There's that core of honor and grit, and honor is kind of, you know what that's all about. Grit is important to note because most of you know that concrete construction is not an easy person's trade. Our people, all of them, have to work physically hard in their job of placing concrete construction, whether it's vertical, horizontal, whether it's commercial, whether it's industrial, whether it's technology centers. It's a tough job. And so most of our folks have incredible grit. And that's an important approach on every project that allows us to drive higher levels of productivity while staying safe and having first-time quality. We don't like rework and don't need it, right? So anyway, that's a little bit about what we are and how we're fabricated together. So as the nation's largest concrete constructor in the United States, we're known for, being a part of a landscape long after a lot of our projects are wrapped up. So we want to leave kind of a legacy behind. A lot of our people's children and sometimes grandchildren are Baker employees, and it's pretty cool for her or him to introduce the grandson to a project that was built 35 years ago. And that commitment to sustainability for those future generations to have a healthier world is just one of those things that is just really, really important to us within our own community. So sustainability is an easy word to say. ESG, environmental and sustainable governance, is not as easy a word to say, but both of them are what I want to say necessarily interpreted with it really being in your gut as a strong internal mission, basically 724, to look at every aspect of construction and all the materials used to see if we can do everything we possibly can to drop the global warming potential of those materials in the project. So I want to talk a little bit about what are some of the things since really kind of mid-COVID and then into 22, where sustainability was really crystallized in the company with a strong mission statement and a strong follow-up with all our employees of what are we doing to try to enhance better sustainability within our processes and support organizations like New and what they're doing. But we've worked hard at providing more training so that we have more individuals located throughout the country that are LEED certified. And we stay close to the overall changes and evolution of LEED so that we can take and participate in areas, particularly when there's a rollover to some of the American Concrete Institute processes that we're all in sync and being able to have concrete be not only the most sustainable material because of its durability, but also the reduction of emissions, embedded emissions. We're getting active and have been for a long time of trying to do everything we can on the job site relative to reduction of waste and the use of whatever technology that reduces global emissions. Same time, if we continually do work correctly the first time and you don't have rework, all your emissions are reduced just by the fact that you're not having additional waste or spending longer time at a project. Anywhere we can reduce greenhouse emissions, we try. All our materials that we use are scrutinized for what I would call what the EPD, the Environmental Proclamation Declaration, looks like on a particular product, not only just concrete itself, but in all the other building materials that we use on a site. We try to investigate what's going on with all the new technologies. There's a lot of materials, as you all know, that can be used to either complement or substitute Portland cement. And as those materials evolve and we're able to create and participate with the cement producer and the ready-mix concrete producer and the structural engineers and the architect and the owner with building mix designs that get the job done in order to have the correct structural outcome of concrete, but at the same time reducing its overall global warming potential, in many cases by the reduction of cement and the substitution of other materials, more planning on which mixes go where, at what time, when will those mixes be loaded, what kind of strength gaining is really necessary. Do we need X amount of PSI in 14 days, or do we really just need it in 126 days? And how that can affect the overall cementitious properties that are put into a mixed design and reduce that overall embedded carbon emissions that occur with that mixed design. And again, this is done in concert. It's not that we're a leader in this. We're just supporting the concert of important stakeholders that if together we look at different innovative mixed designs that have lower embedded carbon emissions, if we look at that early with the structural engineer, with the ready mix producer, with all the other materials in the concrete participating in that, along with the ready mix producer, together we can come up with the answers we need to have 20, 30, 40% reduction in embedded carbon emissions, while at the same time have a construction material, concrete, the best, being able to do the job it needs to do for the structural and sometimes architectural, other purposes that mixed has within that structure, including architectural. So we track the environmental product declarations. We're along with the National Ready Mix and the Portland Cement Association supporting more exhaustive requirements for EPDs on all job sites. If we're allowed and get involved early enough, we like to work with the developer, the owner, and the architect and engineers and all the material suppliers in advance to produce and support mixed designs that have lower global warming potential, and then get out in the field before it's time to build and test these mixes relative to constructability. Is it placeable? Is it a material that can be consolidated correctly? Is it a material that can be finished correctly if it's horizontal? All those areas we like to do mock-ups and make sure that it's the right product for the needs of the project, and do that in advance. And if together we do this with our general contractor or our EPC, engineering, procurement, constructor in the industrial world, or even construction managers, if we do that early with the structural engineer, I think often there's little, if no, impact in costs if that opportunity is available to do that. That's not always true. Sometimes schedule changes that occur with the strength, the speed of strength gaining properties of certain mixed designs may cause a change in the schedule. And sometimes that can have some financial impacts. But generally, we just don't do that. We try to do that as a collaboration. And that's 9 out of 10 times has produced a much better result. And there's some really innovative structural engineers out there. One I can think of, Walter P. Moore, that is involved with us on a current stadium, football stadium that we're building, where all the objectives of the reduction of global warming potential within concrete construction was easily made without a cost impact because of the work that was done in advance, where we work together to look at means and methods that make sense to everybody. We like to establish protocols. We've got more standardization within the operations throughout all of Baker offices, and with all personnel becoming more aware and trying to promote wherever possible the additions of using materials that promote an overall culture of improved health, sustainability, and safety. And that's so key as we support ESG from our clients as well as our own team on each major project that we have, whether it's industrial or commercial. As most of you know, and some of the mission statements of National Ready Mix, Portland Concrete Association, Portland Cement Association, and new has been the increased desire to have effective collaboration and education. So in the collaboration, Baker has supported new considerably as the center of excellence for carbon neutral concrete. And there's been significant advancements already within that initiative and lots more coming down the road. MIT, the National Ready Mix Concrete Research Foundation, lots of other organizations are working hard at improving the overall global warming potential going the right direction and having the embedded carbon emissions in concrete seeing overall reductions so that we have a more sustainable building material for all projects to build. We're providing significant amount of involvement with industry leadership, including supporting new in a big way. Fortunate enough, even the White House recognized several of us for being initiators in this area. And that's part of the industry collaboration that's going on to have a reduction in carbon emissions throughout the world. We're also spending a lot of time on the education side of it. And that's the part, as we all know, that's on the call now, is really having education that really has an effective change in our behavior and that it's universal throughout the company. And that is an ongoing mission, like quality and like safety over the years, as you continue to drill down to the core of the folks that are in the field doing the construction, as he or she becomes what I'd call a real salesperson of reduction of global emissions, particularly out of the concrete product. It gives us an overall culture change that gives us a permanent ESG improvement. And I hope all of us on the call and all our partners out there continue to see increased results in this whole area of collaboration. I want to talk a little bit about another form of collaboration, and that is, as we talked a little bit before, the most effective way to have substantial reductions in the embedded carbon emissions in concrete and all the materials associated with the concrete is that we collaborate the team early and get on that mission and say, what are our goals? How do we become accountable for those goals of reduction in carbon emissions? How do we track it? How do we manage it? How do we implement it as a team? That team can be all the stakeholders. So it should be the materials that are used in concrete, in the mixes itself. It should be the stakeholders that produce ready-mix concrete, the concrete producer, and it should be the testing labs where it makes sense, and most certainly the structural engineers, the architect, the owner, and the general contractor or the EPC or whoever is responsible for building that structure. And as a collaboration, we do that early. I want to just show you a couple of projects, and I want to do this because a lot of people don't realize that Baker is so diversified. When you think about concrete construction, whether it's horizontal or vertical, that structural concrete we do in almost all markets except residential seldom and heavy highway seldom. But all your commercial segments and all your industrial, whether it's light, medium, or heavy industrial, including an extensive presence in nuclear and renewable energies, this Baker's involved in all those types of projects. So here you've got a power station where we did all the anchor bolts down and foundations in the structural concrete for that process. Liquefied natural gas is natural gas. It's being liquefied to something around a minus 260, and it's really cold stuff, and you need to store that. And we've been involved in building the full containments and the foundations, and sometimes the roof when it's a full containment for LNG storage tanks all over the country, from 20,000 cubic meters up to 200,000 cubic meters in size. And those are exciting projects because it's a great way of storing a lot of natural gas efficiently before it goes on a boat and goes and helps power with almost super clean power in all parts of the world. At the same time, everything's not heavy industrial. A lot of it's what we call light medium distribution, warehouses, data centers, those types of structures, large malls and other commercial applications. And we do a lot of that. And we enjoy large floor slabs that have high tolerances with sustainability requirements of durability for 50, 70 years. That's what concrete construction is all about. It's a great material, and we're here to continually put it down correctly. At the same time, we do, most of you know, there's a lot of concrete in the United States. Some of it's been down for a long time, subject to a lot of tough environmental impacts of seawater and corrosion and other things. So we're also doing a lot of concrete repair and forensic analysis of how to rehabilitate or extend the longevity of concrete structurally through the right kind of rehabilitation, right kind of repair, right kind of restoration of concrete in all venues, whether it's a bridge or a nuclear vessel or a large dock in a terminal. Baker has kind of always enjoyed a challenge. So there's a number of structures that we've done over the years that were not easy concrete construction projects. They weren't easy for the architect, they weren't easy for the engineer, and they definitely weren't easy for the builders and the prime subcontractors that did all the concrete construction. A lot of sport facilities all over the country have been done by Baker over the years, and some really challenging formwork that is done with some of the more unique structures like the National Veterans Memorial Museum in Columbus, Ohio. As a builder, that's a project that can give you a real headache, and we kind of like that. So we jump on them and do the very best we can. And it gives a lot of our younger leaders in the company a real opportunity to show their innovation and their grit to pull off what many people say, I'm not looking at that job. That's not our cup of tea. We strive for we enjoy those kind of challenges. Some of the big challenges we have on large projects is collaborating together to create mixed designs that fill the structural engineer's requirements, but at the same time have a substantial reduction in global warming potential. This was a job where that was. This was also a job that had some pretty substantial large pours, and those are challenging, and we enjoy those kind of challenges. But when you think about some of the large placements we've done on a lot of big structures, you can see that experience over since 1968 has really built up and up and up and up to a point where these jobs are very doable for us and very efficient. But at the same time now, with the collaboration on global warming, we've also been able to improve the substantial reduction in embedded carbon emissions in the materials used for concrete construction. We look forward to challenges when we can work with partners, and a number of great cement companies in the United States have been aggressive about working on net zero carbon by a certain time. Some are as aggressive of 2040 for zero, and big 30 to 40% emissions reductions by 2030, 2035. We are on board to support that. So anytime there's a new technology or a new mix design or a new material that can be a substitution for cement or complement cement or modified cements like 1P, and 1L and other cements that have a reduction in global emissions, we're all over that. And this is an example where some of those partnerships for sustainable data center construction, we've been very fortunate to be a part of it and support that. So I'll close out by saying two things that I want you to take away. One, is your collaboration circle of stakeholders on a project, are you all connected in the right way very early in the game to start talking about ways to reduce the global warming potential in the materials used? And number two, within your own company, is this becoming, if it's not already, a really important value in who and what your company stands for and how they operate with all the coworkers, to be able to support an overall improved, sustainable environment and a healthier climate for us all. With that, Kelly, I'll pull it back to you on trying to be able to address anything the audience would like to talk about.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bob. That was a wonderful presentation. Now we'll just take some time to do Q&A. You have a moment or two if you'd like to write any questions in the dialogue box. We'll have Sarika from New read off any questions that you may have, and Bob will be happy to answer them.
Right, Kelly, thank you. Thanks, Bob, for a great presentation, a lot of information. We have two questions at the moment. Again, you still have time to send questions if there's any. The first question, let me pull this out. Okay, are you seeing the production of EPDs in repair products as much as we see them with new construction? And how are you helping push sustainability in these smaller scale products and products for repairs?
Okay, the first question I can answer. The second one, if you could repeat again, because I didn't quite hear you very well. But the first question is, yeah, we're starting to we're starting to see a really good awareness and a responsibility from all our repair material suppliers relative to EPDs, and that's changed a lot in 3 years, a lot. And most all folks now are on board with that really well. We require it, and most of our clients require it. So that's going pretty good. What was your second question?
It kind of answers that too. I mean, how are you helping push sustainability in these smaller scale products for repairs? How are you going to push sustainability?
Yeah, I think our biggest influence is with the stakeholder group, which is that organization of the engineers with the material suppliers, tied in with overall initiative from many of the owners and many of the general contractors, who are on board with saying this is the direction we're going, and we need everybody to do the best we can to support that initiative of responsible EPDs, and hopefully over time an improvement in what's in that EPD, and that we like what we see better and better over time.
As a contractor, what are the largest barriers to incorporation new and novel materials that reduce carbon in concrete or cement?
I'd say one of our biggest challenges is a lot of the materials that we can use that create a lower carbon emissions mix design, embedded carbon emissions mix design. A lot of those materials haven't had a lot of long period of time of existence, unlike fly ash and many other pozzolans have. some of the cool materials that we're being asked to look at and enjoy actually playing with them are materials that either haven't been around a long time, or that is not have been typically used in ready-mix concrete, or they're geographical, so they're regional specific. And you find something that is just super in Colorado, and you say, well, we should use that on the stadium in Florida. But that's not practical because of cost, transportation, and the carbon footprint of moving all that around. So I guess it's the database and knowledge of all the such opportunities with materials that can substitute Portland cement, where those materials are, where they've been used, what's the structural engineer thinking about them, what is the ready-mix producer thinking about them, and what are the cost impact? Are they really regional, or can they be moved around? And what all that effect is. We have a lot of choices out there now. The question is using the right choice that's the most economical approach, because you don't want to get in a position where things cost a lot more money typically. That help?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's a good question, and it's everybody's looking for the answer. I mean, it's a tough one at the same time. The next question is again related to the same question. What is the best way to help drive progress with innovative low carbon concrete solutions in the contracting community?
Well, most of all, a lot of you may or may not have seen AGC's new guide on the reduction of carbon emissions in all building materials within a structure. I think that guide, it's agc.org, is easily available. The National Ready Mix Concrete Association has some fantastic publications, and so does PCA. The American Society of Concrete Construction has been proactive about looking at sustainability in concrete construction practices, and there's a good guide. So we have some great tools out there. There's some phenomenal, great consultants that specialize in this area. Baker Concrete Construction and Baker Construction itself has a number of subject matter experts in this area. All these things need to be used. All these things need to be talked about early, not 3 weeks before we're starting our first pour on a project. That's a tough time to start making major changes in the mix designs and the associated performance with those changes. And you have to adapt all that. So, but if it's 4 or 5 months in advance, then the labs and the concrete producer and all the material suppliers to that producer and ourselves have time to be able to put together solutions to the overall requirement of reducing the embedded carbon emissions of that particular mix design.
Great, thank you, Bob. The next one, are you seeing more bike lane requirements in different states?
Seeing more what?
Bike lane?
Bike lane?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, East Coast for West Coast first, East Coast second, and then it kind of matures and morphs its way through the rest of the country. And I think we're all seeing quite a bit of those things. What I encourage us all to do is stay involved with those who are producing those standards, are producing those requirements, whether it's public or private. Stay involved in those early to make sure that they are the best that we can all do as an industry, and that it's practical, and that it achieves the objective of doing a good job influencing our own individual ESG policies. So I think that is definitely rolling more and more. You're going to see requirements. You just want to influence those the best you can early so that they're reasonable requirements, and put in your knowledge. Many of the policymakers, or policy writers I should say, often just don't have the technology insights that the folks in the world of concrete do. And so you got to offer up and participate and be able to take academia, structural engineers, American Concrete Institute experts, and other subject matter experts in the whole field of what we're doing here, and influencing many of those policymakers early, not reacting to something that hit the street and go, I don't know if this is right. It's a little late then. We need to influence it while it's being put together. And yes, we all have that obligation to do that, because there is a lot of stuff bubbling all over. Much of it's really good. Much of it needs some of our help.
That's a great answer, Bob, because the next question is actually, if you could make suggestions to state requirements, what would you suggest? I think you already answered that question. You want to add more?
But and the big key is that those policy folks that are putting together the requirements or the changes in codes or regulations, that they are involved with they're involved with ACI, they're involved with NRMCA and the structural engineers to be able to get feedback on what they propose, along with all the what I call climate scientists out there that are doing a great job pushing the agenda of sustainability. As long as we're all participating in those conversations before they become the new law of the land, we'll be just fine.
Great, thank you. The next one. Have you used fly ash on your projects? Was the slower concrete strength gain is a problem?
Well, it's a big question, because the amount of ash and the kind of ash, depending on where in the United States you are, can fluctuate quite a bit. But it is a proven material to reduce the embedded carbon footprint, and its strength gaining characteristics are different for every material. So, each ready mix supplier and fly ash supplier will have all that information, and we try to tap into that. If there's an issue about strength gaining characteristics, the rate of strength gaining, the rate of set, the finishability, that's where all that stuff is great to get out in the yard and pour it and play with it, experiment with it with the labs and others and the producer, and get comfortable with it and see what the pros and the cons are of that particular cementitious substitution material that you're looking at, like fly ash.
Excellent. One last question. Let's be optimistic on that. It looks one of the major issues is cultural change. Do you think a culture change is achievable before industry deadlines such as 2040?
Let me repeat the question. What is the effect of culture changes? How do you manage that to optimize it? And is a 2040 mandate realistic? Yeah. Was that the question?
Yeah, I think the question, like looking for whether we can reach the 2040 goals for carbon reduction.
Yeah, well, I think we can, but will we do it at the pace that we want to in order to hit that deadline? I think that remains unknown, but I think everybody's putting a lot of effort into that area. We just have to remember that 2040 isn't that far away. 2030 is like tomorrow. So we have to be realistic about how fast all that will happen. But the Earth didn't get in this shape overnight, and we're not going to get it all fixed up overnight either. We just have to diligently work at it, company by company, project by project, to get there. And I think there's a lot of really, really good initiatives that people are putting a lot of time into it that are making a difference. And the cement industry has come a long, long way in a decade on embedded carbon emissions, and it's very impressive. And we can now start doing that on the job site itself, no matter what building materials you use. Fortunately, the most sustainable building material to use is concrete, but there is other things on the job site besides concrete, and we're all working together to create a better overall dramatic change in the carbon emissions and other emissions for that matter.
Right, thank you so much. Bob, I think those are all the questions we had today, and the time is 2:50.
Okay.
Kelly,
Yeah.
thanks
Good.
again.
Thanks, Sareka. I appreciate your help. And thank you, Bob. It was a great presentation. Thank you for answering those questions.
Great.
Please,
And Baker really enjoys the opportunity to support new. And if there's anything out there that we can help with, don't hesitate to give us a jingle, and we'll jump in there the best we can.
thank you, Bob. For all the attendees, please visit the new website at newconcrete.org for information on this topic. While you're there, please check out our resources on lower carbon concrete production and placement. The website provides access to our sustainable concrete guides, frequently asked questions, webinar recordings, and more. This will again be posted there. Please stay tuned for our next webinar presented by Gaurav Sant on August 22nd. And thank you for attending today's webinar, and please stay tuned for future webinars. Thank you again.